Hey folks, David Stewart here. Time for some more Storycraft, and today it is the Thief with a Heart of Gold. This is a very popular character type that goes back, at this point, hundreds of years to characters like Robin Hood. And the defining characteristics of the Thief with a Heart of Gold is that they are a thief, means he commits petty crime on some level. Almost never really severe crime. We're talking about somebody who steals things, not somebody who murders people. And that's very important because we are willing to forgive petty larceny, not so much murder if we're part of the audience. And that is combined with a moral sensibility. There's some sort of code of conduct that the thief is engaging with. He doesn't steal from poor people, or he steals specifically from rich people. He never kills people on the job. There's some sort of code of ethics that the thief with the heart of gold has that helps to make that character likable by the audience. And the result is a character that's usually very charismatic, very likable, very, very funny in many cases, and really an enjoyable character to watch on the screen. And one that we also like to see grow if we're part of the audience. This is a character that has a growth arc, generally away from whatever their petty crime is towards legitimacy. It's been used in dozens and dozens of movies and books for a long time now. I think one of the best examples that I mentioned is Robin Hood. He steals from the rich and gives to the poor, or in reality what he does is he steals back the money the government has stolen from the people and gives it back to the poor people who were unjustly taxed by Prince John or King John, depending on how the story is actually being executed. But we see more than that. They're often used in Disney movies. Aladdin is a thief with a heart of gold. He's a likable, charismatic male character. He is a thief. He is on the run. You can see that the females on the street like him, but he steals because he says, I gotta steal to eat. He steals because he doesn't really have any other options as a street urchin, and he wants to be more than what he is. So his character growth is about being his true self and about coming out of the place where he's born to be that diamond in the rough, to be a good guy that happens to be born into a bad situation. That's a very, very frequent thing that we see with the thief with a heart of gold, is that thief maybe is an orphan, the thief maybe doesn't have parents, and thus gets sucked into the underworld, if you will, gets sucked into organized crime, or ends up having to steal to survive, and yet he still maintains a moral sensibility about what he's doing, his lines that he won't cross. In another Disney movie, you have Flynn Rider, who is a thief and, of course, ends up being kind of the secondary character to the Rapunzel character, and he ends up helping her, befriending her, and achieving his virtue through those actions. And I will mention that this is a little bit different from a standard bad boy character. I talked about the bad boy as a really popular character type or character archetype, and the bad boy really tends to be bad, whereas the thief with a heart of gold is not bad. He has to do bad things. So where we see the bad boy as being somebody who's very masculine and violent in a lot of cases, and attractive as well, and certainly from the female perspective, there's a desire to, say, tame the wildness of him. He represents kind of chaos and wildness. The thief with a heart of gold is genuinely a good character, but has a slightly different code of ethics than what a lot of people would have, or is in a bad situation that he ultimately wants to get out of. If you're thinking of that D&D alignment chart, the thief with a heart of gold is usually going to be somewhere in that chaotic side, either chaotic neutral or chaotic good. It's a character that, maybe he's with a group of companions and he just has no problem nicking a valuable pendant from a rich woman. She won't miss it, and they could use that pendant, they could give it to the poor. He usually has some sort of slightly misplaced virtuosity towards what he's actually doing. He's trying to do good with his thievery, but he often misses. If you were to think of Han Solo is a classic bad boy. But if you were looking at Han Solo, say, in the movie Solo, a Star Wars story, he really is more like the thief with a heart of gold. That's really how they portrayed that character. He's genuinely good, but he is involved in thievery basically because of his situation. It's different from how he's portrayed in the original trilogy, where he really is a scoundrel and has to be converted to the good side through his experiences with Luke and Leia. So it's a really different character, I think, in Solo. Not worse, but certainly one that is a little bit more immediately appealing or immediately likable from a moral or friendliness kind of perspective if you're part of the audience. Of course, we have a classic one like Bilbo Baggins. Bilbo Baggins is hired to be a burglar. Now, Tolkien picked that word burglar very specifically in that they're going to be stealing this treasure. Now, it's really their treasure. It's not Smaug's treasure. They're acting virtuously when they do it, but they do all kinds of little stretches with what they're doing along the way. They escape from the Elven King's halls. They don't tell him what's up. They do a lot of little things that aren't quite in line with, say, what we would expect a perfectly good character to do. So in a lot of ways, Bilbo is a bit like a thief with a heart of gold. And since he's a hobbit, we can see in a lot of other fantasy literature that tends to get copied and pasted. We have a lot of halflings, little characters like gnomes and halflings that are thieves. They're not bad guys. They're very friendly. They're jovial characters like Bilbo Baggins, but they engage in thievery, and they're slightly chaotic characters. So you could look at Regis in the Drizzt books by R.A. Salvatore. He's a thief, and he's from the Thieves Guild, and he stole a very important pendant from the Thief Guildmaster, and the Thieves Guild is after him for him stealing that. And of course, he uses this magical pendant to the aid of many people. And despite the fact that he's a thief, he's very, very good to his friends, and his friends really care about him enough to try to save him when he actually finally gets apprehended by the Thieves Guild, which he's been trying to escape. And he's an orphan. He's raised on the streets. Another thing that we tend to see a lot with the thief with the heart of gold. They're orphans. You also have, say, Tasselhoff in Dragons of Autumn's Twilight, and all of those books by Tracy Hickman and Margaret Weiss. He's a rather jovial character. He's a chaotic character. He's out of control with some of the other members of the party, but he is not a bad character. Ultimately, he is a good character, even if he is a little bit on the sneaky or a little bit on the trickster side. And of course, there's a really good example from video games, which is Garrett from the Thief series of video games. He's a thief. He is kind of been sucked into a life of crime. He's an orphan, of course, and the gameplay revolves around him being a thief, but ultimately he has to do good things through his skills in order to kind of finish the plot of at least the original game. And I think that's a theme that you see in the entire series, is kind of a thief with the heart of gold. And of course, one of the most popular ones over the last couple decades is Jack Sparrow from the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. He is a bit of a bad boy character. In fact, he would probably fit pretty well in the bad boy archetype in general, except that the filmmakers are very careful to show him constantly being virtuous all the time. He's going to steal a ship from the British, but he quickly abandons that to go save somebody who is drowning and suffers the consequences for it. He's very funny. He's very charming. He's, at least in that first movie, really represents the thief with a heart of gold. He's not so much a love interest. That's the other thing that you get with a lot of these characters. They can be, but a lot of times they're just secondary characters there to kind of help propel the plot forward and be good in the ways that make sense for themselves. They're always a little bit chaotic. So that's the thief with the heart of gold. I think it's a really useful character type if you want to think of it on that lines. It's somebody who always is going to be having a little bit of illicit knowledge and illicit skills. Somebody who's generally a good character, but one who can be bad if you need some bad things done, as long as those bad things are done within limits. The thief will not be killing anybody, but he can help you steal some money if you're in a tight pinch. He can go pick somebody's pocket. He can break into a house. He knows how to pick locks maybe. But, he's not going to help you steal that thing from that poor person, because that just wouldn't be right. We only steal from rich people, or we only steal maybe within the rules of the Thieves Guild, whatever you happen to be writing that fits that. There's always some kind of limit to what is going to make him a good character. Of course, what he wants to be is he wants to become truly like a lawful good character and to actually escape his life of crime. That is it's similar to the trajectory of the bad boy in general, in that the bad boy is going to go from being a character that is really bad to one that has a cause, someone who's nihilistic to someone who has a reason to live, somebody who does bad things to somebody who abandons those bad things to do something right. So that's what we see a lot with the thief with the heart of gold, is that they are going to escape from their life of crime and go on to do something legitimate. That's one of their main goals. They actually want to be good. I think this is different from the bad boy, and the bad boy kind of has to be forcefully converted. He has to be tamed, if you will, whereas the thief with the heart of gold is really wanting to be better than he is in a lot of cases. So thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Newest books, fiction book, Eyes in the Walls. This is a great horror book if you want to read that. And of course, you can check out the audiobook. I've released, by the time you read this, you'll have probably another chapter to digest, and then I think there's one more to go. And Keys to Prolific Creativity to help you refine your creative process and really complete your projects and do a great job with them. And of course, my latest fantasy book, which I don't even think I have a copy of right here, has a little bit of this rendition. It has a bad boy character that really wants to be good and is a bit of a thief with the heart of gold. I would say the thief with the heart of gold is probably more distantly in the past, and he's actually really dealing with some much more severe moral burdens than just stealing things. But you can see a little bit of that in there. So thanks so much, and I'll see you guys next time.